Yeah, skateboarding, everyone's favorite way to stretch some street and a great way to go to the hospital. Did you see that place, man? They got free TV and free food.
Back in the day, I used to be obsessed with skateboarding. I owned a ton of tech decks, bought everything Tony Hawk related, and had a bunch of Walmart skateboards. And while I don't skate as much now and can't do any tricks, I still bust it out occasionally.
But not being able to do tricks changes today. For today, I am going to harness the power of Tony Hawk himself and do a trade flip so cool that Vans is gonna sign me. Let's go! Oh shit!
Well, according to the doctor, I've broken 32 bones, 3 of which they didn't know existed, punctured my lungs, and I'm expected to survive for 40 or so minutes. Luckily though, that gives me enough time to talk about the next best thing to skateboarding: skateboarding video games! Tony Hawk, the man, the legend, the GOAT of skateboarding. If you don't know him, he's like the Tom Brady of skateboarding, except he doesn't kiss his son on the lips. In the late 90s, Neversoft created a little game called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and that game kinda sold more than the entire population of Jamaica, so from 2000 to around 2009, everyone was trying to make the big hit. Evolution skateboarding, MTV skateboarding, Skate, Bart Simpson has a skateboard, Simpsons skateboarding. Mickey Mouse is popular, let's give him 2. Metal Gear Solid, a stealth game about some stuff about the government, I've never played it. He has a fucking skateboarding game. Every couple months, multiple times a month, they were cranking these things out, and we're already hitting the nostalgia wave with games like Tony Hawk Remastered, Session, and Skater XL. And I love them. The extreme sports style of game has always appealed to me, sinking hours into Tony Hawk Underground and American Wasteland, having so much fun with Downhill Jam on the DS, and Skate 3 is by far my most played game of all time, for better or for worse. But no matter how many people I see talk about the genre, be it Kid Icarus or Square Eye Jack, etc., they always just talk about the known games. Simpsons skateboarding is bad, but everyone has already said that, and there are definitely way weirder and more experimental games in the genre that deserve some more love.
So I played them. All of them. Every single one. And I want to die now.
Okay, ground rules, because I want this video to come out someday. If a game released before 2000, it doesn't count. If it's surfing or snowboarding, it doesn't count. And the game had to have been, or is being planned to be released for Steam or Nintendo or Xbox or whatever. So no weird internet or flash games.
Without further ado, weirdest skateboarding video game.
Okay, here we go. Gogo Hypergrind is a game created by Alice and Spumco, with John K acting as an executive person in the project. Yes, good old John K, Ren and Stimpy John K, Cans Without Labels John K, Sexual Harasser John K. This game is gonna suck, isn't it? Look, okay? I don't think this game is as awful as I've seen people say, but my god is this game stupid, 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 dumb, stupid bullshit. This game follows a bunch of cartoons in the fictional world of Toonland, auditioning to be in a new extreme skateboarding film by competing with each other to see who will reign supreme. In the opening cutscene, you're gonna see exactly why this game doesn't work, and it's because John K worked on it. And while yes, he didn't have anything to do with the gameplay, there's one thing that he has that carries into the gameplay, and that is horniness. No, it's spite. It's spite. This game is spiteful to animation, it's spiteful to skateboarding, it's spiteful to video games, and most importantly, it's spiteful to the player who bought the game, except nobody did, and that's why it's $300 now. Because everybody bought Tony Hawk Underground instead, which is a much better game and came out the same year. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, there is a lot to delve into here. Okay, first off, the presentation. I was just complaining about the animation, but that's more because of the story being awful and about animation and whatever, so just judging by the looks and sound of this game, the presentation is phenomenal, dude. I'm a huge sucker for this edgy Y2K cartoon era of media, and this game perfectly encapsulated. It's cute, but everyone is just a little angry, a little dirty, a little more raunchy. It's just so hard. And the music. I've been using the music from this game far before playing it because it's just so sick. The cartoonish melodies over blast beats and samples, almost akin to a Nickelodeon version of Jet Set Radio's music. It's just the perfect vibe. Like, listen to these. However, that's mainly where my praise for this game ends. Everything after this, unfortunately, goes very downhill. Jam, Tony Hawk, it was an old Wii game, it kinda sucked. The story of this game is that I think John K. hates computer animation, and so he uses this intro as an excuse to complain about computer animation and how it's so much worse than cell animation. Also, there's like some cartoons who want to be in a movie or whatever. To the auditions. The tutorial for this game is fine. I didn't like how floaty you are when you jump, but after playing the main game, it makes sense as to why. You get through it pretty easily. However, there are a couple issues I have. Why does the pole jumping not work? Why are there no flip tricks? And why is there no camera control? When you're swinging from the poles, you can look around just fine, but no, when you're skating around and need to look around, you can't do that. It baffles me how they could just negate adding a feature that is needed for a game like this, but whatever. The rest of the game is your standard Tony Hawk fare, save for this game's biggest quirk. The gimmick of this game is that the tricks are not the focus. What you're trying to do is link up combos by activating objects and hurting yourself. If you see an object, you ride up towards it and spam X until your character gets hurt in a funny way. I'm not against this idea. In concept, it seems like it would be intrusive, forcing you to go out of your way to activate an object, but while that does still occasionally happen, yes, most of the time the objects do link up pretty well and feel mostly smooth without feeling like it's taken away from the flow of the combo. However, where this game falls flat, it's the horny. Okay, no, hold on. I need to talk about this. Why is this game so horny? I get it to some degree. Some of the cartoon characters are stereotypes, so having the foxy cat girl is not only furry bait, which is fire, how they portray her is usually pretty manageable, save for the almost bare-ass naked image of her in a suggestive pose. No, the problem I have is the billboard with tits, which you are instructed to run into for points, right next to a paint bucket that turns you all white. Imagine this, okay? Little Timmy is 8 and his mom won't let him play Tony Hawk because it has swearing and blood and... So little Timmy in his depression finds a game called Gogo Hypergrind, and his mom lets him get it because it's got little cute cartoons on it. So little Timmy goes home, puts the game in the GameCube, opens the title screen, gets to the character select screen, sees the fat pig who's modeled to be sexy and has a fat fetish. Do you see the problem? Okay, no, I'm sorry. Getting back on track, the horniness is distracting, but unfortunately it's not the biggest problem with this game. The big problem is that each map has 5 different missions that are completely different from one another, of which the map was not modeled around, which makes this game unfair. Each map has 4 random missions that aren't really related to the map at all, and 1 mission made for the map itself. This becomes a giant problem because one map might be really good for doing tricks and hitting objects, but might be extremely unfun with performing a race or fighting someone else. And maybe it's just because I suck at the racing and fighting, but it leads to me usually forfeiting because it's not fun, they're repetitive, and also they're tournament styled, so you'll end up spending around 10 to 15 minutes trying to finish 1 mission out of 5. It doesn't help either that the maps aren't very well designed in general. You'll have areas with no objects to interact with half pipes you struggled to get out of next to places where there's 30,000 objects and you keep falling over and wasting your time. And a lot of this comes down to not being able to look around. Everything is so cluttered, and the missions where you have to find a specific object to interact with are impossible because most of the time what you're looking for is above you and you have no way to find a way to get up there without wasting all of your time. Sure, you can use the rehearsal button to free ride the map for a while before actually playing any missions, but if I have to know the map inside and out before before playing the actual game, then there is a fundamental problem with your design. Think about the Tony Hawk games. You're given 10 mini goals to complete in 2-minute intervals. Some are trying to get all the letters on the map, some are getting high points in the allotted time, some are stupid like finding a secret tape, tricking over various objects, whatever. But a very important reason as to why Tony Hawk games don't fall into Gogo Hypergrind's problems with map design is that Tony Hawk's maps are fluid, they're simple, and they're understandable. Tony Hawk puts just enough detail into its maps to where it's never overwhelming, but everything still has character. Its maps sprawl out in various directions, but there's still a very clear path in every level that takes you through the entire thing, while still having very recognizable landmarks that allow you to remember places and get to them faster. If I think about a level like Jersey from Thug, I think about the giant skate park in the middle, the long green bridge with policemen on it, the subway station you can grind around, the suburbs with flaming sewer pipes, all landmarks that allow finding where I am and where I need to go so much easier. Now put it against Gogo Hypergrind's level design. Everything is so cluttered and is all trying to stand out with extremely vibrant colors and details, making everything turn into mush. There's no sense of direction with the level design, it's all just crammed together, and there's no places that are recognizable from each other that allow finding where you are easier, which is why the game modes where you have to find specific objects to interact with become frustrating because you have no direction except a little arrow that points at something 60 feet above you. And like, that's the whole game. There's a very light story, a story mode that's like 70% not fun, controls that suck, and a game that looks amazing and sounds great, but just overall leads to a frustrating time. It's unfortunate because I really do want to love this game, but it feels like every right step it makes, it trips and falls over itself. I like the gimmicks of the game, but they're executed poorly. I like the art style animation, but it actively hinders the level design. I enjoy some of the missions, but there's more missions that feel half-baked or enjoyless than fun. I'm sorry, but there are other skateboarding games that came out the same year I would rather play than this, and there are better skateboarding games not from Tony Hawk that I would rather play than this. Gogo Hypergrind unfortunately gets a 3 out of 10. Okay, well, my hopes and dreams are crushed and I don't have much more time to live, so please, God, let me get a good skating game. And then God spoke down from the heavens with a voice that sounded a little too much like Ryan Reynolds and said, "Hey, I was in Free Guy, also play this game," before throwing down a demo for a game not even out yet. Thanks, God. Olliefrog is a quaint little game coming out next year by Mr. Thee about a cute little frog who's on a skateboard and he goes whippy. And while this game isn't out yet, there is a demo and I want to talk about it because I think this game shows a lot of promise. First off, this game looks amazing. The pastel color design has so much personality, the characters are all cute with enough range in their design to make tricks look good, and even small things like the grind meter, the composition book, and the text for the tricks just ooze with so much charm. And it helps that the sound design of this game is great too. Some of the songs I think don't fit the vibe of the game. More lo-fi aesthetic, kind of quieter beats would be the hopeful goal, but when the songs hit, they just put you in a trance, dude. Plus the ribbits your frogs make are so adorable. I want to pick up the frog, push in its appendages, and kick it like a ball so that it can go. But none of this matters if the gameplay sucks, as shown by Gogo Hypergrind. So how does it stack up? It's pretty great. Finally, I'm talking about a good video game on this channel after years. Finally. Olliefrog goes with the safer route of playing like Tony Hawk. Obviously, I love to see people innovate, but there's a reason the Tony Hawk formula was copied so much. It's an incredibly easy system to understand and master. And while some people would say taking its control scheme would be ripping it off, I see it more as there are racing games that control different, but most of them use the right trigger or the A button to go. There are racing games that exist that use different buttons, but like that's the standard. So in that department, Olliefrog feels great. The controls are mostly responsive, however there are a few amount of times I'll like try to grab and it won't register, revert and it ends my combo, etc. But this game is a demo obviously, so I'll cut it some slack. But the best part by far is that when I'm doing a flip trick, a lot of my movements are so fast that I'll end up pressing the flip trick button before I jump, and luckily in most skateboarding games, they'll read both inputs and start the flip trick the second you jump, but I've played a far few that don't, and it ends up fucking up the flow extremely. So I'm happy to say Olliefrog doesn't do that. Now, judging by the maps and the game modes, I'm assuming this game is going to swap between old school Tony Hawk and Tony Hawk 4, going from classic 10 goals in 2 minutes gameplay and roaming around the level finding missions, and genuinely, I'm super excited. There's enough freshness from that gameplay loop that'll keep me engaged for the expectingly short runtime. However, regarding the maps, they aren't bad, but I think they are a little scatterbrained. The first map is okay, but the other two don't have enough of a flow for me to feel like I can link up a decent combo without manualing most of the combo. And the hotel map is just unfinished. It's cute roaming around it for like a minute, but there is nothing to do in it. I'm praying that by the time the game releases, the maps will feel more fleshed out, but for now, they are definitely what's holding this game back. Really, there's not that much to say, especially since I got all the footage I could from the game in 8 minutes. The only things I'll rapid fire off are the creative frog should have shorts, there's a few glitches, and the spine transfer just always looks weird, and please add a racing mode akin to Downhill Jam, that would be so hard, thank you. Other than that though, I can't rate the game, but if the full game cracks up to be the demo, I can see myself giving this a 7 or even 8. Congrats, Mr. Thee. It's an honor to have your demo about a skating frog be my first positive video game encounter on this channel.
Alright, now I'm genuinely happy. Seems Steam is the way to go. Let me see if there's any more obscure games I can find. Look, okay, I get it. I'm heartless. I'm critiquing a free game made for a college program. Look at me, Mr. Asshole over here. However, I feel like my time with this game was me sitting at my desk while someone showed me it going, yeah, that's a cool idea. Ooh, yeah, that's a cool idea. Ooh, that sounds fun. So when's the full game? What? That's the full game? And this is all that's gonna be done with it? Witch Punk is a 3D arena fighter where you play as a witch on a skateboard trying to stop the evil capitalist woman from starting Halloween 2 by fighting her hordes of robots. I want to love this game. I love the idea of a beat 'em up that takes place on a skateboard, and this weird tech demo thing showcases this could have been so cool. The first 10 minutes of this game is so fun, but the problem is that's it. There's nothing else in this thing. Look, with something like Gogo Hypergrind, I love the visuals and music, but it was realistically never gonna work. Persona People to Nickelodeon Predator to skateboarding sounds like Mad Libs. Of course it fell on its face. Nobody knew what they were doing and nobody wanted to do it. But this, to make this for a college program and then pay money to upload it on Steam shows there had to have been passion for this. Like, this game looks phenomenal. Everything in it is gorgeous and the gameplay almost feels fleshed out. Rolling around on a skateboard means that usually you can't stop, so you always gotta be moving. Going in up close to deliver a heavy attack or keeping your distance to deliver projectiles that are weak but allow you to stay safer. But there's one map, 3 enemies, and the game is beaten in 20 minutes. At least I think it is, because the final boss never showed up 3 times I tried to play this. The game also gets super repetitive after a few minutes. You have 1 melee, 1 projectile, and a boost that just randomly multiplies your damage with no drawbacks. Also, you have so much health and you can always grab more at any time. And the enemies are all boring and just kind of sit there shooting random things at you sometimes. It's so disappointing, dude. The game is also super glitchy and the music is insanely quiet, so it doesn't even have that going for it. If I have to say anything nice, the combat isn't awful, even if it's repetitive. I feel like if this game had more time, the system could have been fleshed out, allowing for cool combos, because as it is, you can't really do that. However, I will give this game its props. Looking at the Steam reviews, they said controller doesn't work well with this game. Well, I don't know if it got updated or whatever, but I was able to play it perfectly with the controller, so that's a plus at least. This game is the equivalent of cooking up a 5-star appetizer, absolute perfection, but then making like a McDonald's level entree. You know, the visuals are spectacular, the idea of combat is superb, but the game itself, the entree, is so gross in comparison, you just feel bad after.
I know I'm being harsh, but I was so hyped for this game, and I truly do hope the creators of it decide to either continue working on it or make a similar game or whatever. Because there is so much to love about this little tiny demo, but it's unfinished. I mean, yes, it's finished, but it doesn't feel that way. So I'm giving Witchpunk a 3 out of 10.
Alright, I get it. Not allowed to be happy.
I feel like the YouTube equivalent of Alan Gregory right now, just a complete fucking failure. Alright, just give me a bad game so we can get this over with.
Tek Knuckle Grind is a very weird skating game that I couldn't get to work.
Fuck! What am I gonna do now? I'm a failure.
Just then, Jesus descended from the heavens.
Oh, hello. It's me, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh my... Aren't you Jesus?
Well, I'm Marvel Jesus.
Yes! I knew you were real.
Listen, my child, there's no reason to get hung up over minute things like this.
Why's that, Jesus Ryan Reynolds?
Just to remember that every mistake you make
increases the length of the video, making it get into the YouTube algorithm. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds. But how do I make my audience feel like I didn't just waste 3 minutes of their life?
Do not worry, my child. Take these games and finish this video. Now, I'm off to record Free Guy 2 with James Corden and Aquafina.
Thank you, Jesus Ryan Reynolds. I can't wait to watch Free Guy 2, still free guying.
Wow, I wonder what the 2 games he gave me are. And it was that day that Dagon realized he was an atheist. Tek Skateboarding is a peculiar game being released for the Game Boy Color, very ahead of its time for the portable skateboard craze. Did they manage to deliver a fun, albeit primitive skateboarding game?
What the fuck did you think?
Okay, I'm being mean. This game actually isn't that bad for being a Game Boy game, at least. You play as Finger Guy, or FG, or my favorite pastime, trying to collect boards and skate across the world. Instead of trying to emulate Tony Hawk, Tek Skateboarding takes a different approach, with the skating taking more of a backseat in favor of exploration, which was genuinely the best decision they could have made with the hardware limitations. I mean, yeah, obviously you can do tricks, but what that equates to is pressing a direction on the D-pad in order to see FG do a funny 4-frame animation. No, what this game is basically a bunch of mini fetch quests, but contrary to popular belief, I do not hate fetch quests. I think they're fine. All that matters is if this game does them well, and... Look, it's a Game Boy game where you're playing as a bald finger with feet thing. Of course it wasn't going to be in depth, but I find its gameplay to become pretty repetitive. All you really do is skate around, slightly changing maps and collect boards. Relatively slowly, might I add. And honestly, I wouldn't be totally against it, but the map you play on doesn't change every round. It changes every 5 rounds, which means you're playing on the same map for 10 minutes at least. I like some of the designs of these things, and the layouts don't change that much, so it's not the end of the world, but it makes the time you're playing it feel so much longer. Another thing I'm iffy on are the tricks themselves. I think they're implemented pretty well, using the D-pad to do tricks and using different combinations of movements on the D-pad to do special tricks. I think it actually works, and every time I want to do a trick I can nail it off pretty easily. The problem is doing tricks raises your time limit, and on extreme you have to do tricks to raise your time limit because you have barely enough standard time to win. And you can't bail out of a trick, so what I did instead was spin around the D-pad a bunch until I had 60 seconds. This is the game's problem. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, doing this makes the game piss easy. On the other hand, I do not want to play these levels for longer than I have to because they aren't particularly well designed, so I do this instead.
Also, regarding the tricks, the only other button besides jump is grind, and I get why they added it, but it barely gives you points. It doesn't add any time to the timer, and it slows you down, so unless you're in free play, there's really no reason to use it. However, there is one saving grace. The music in this game kicks ass. That's some good fucking shit. I mean, it's not awful. It looks fine. It functions fine. I like how some of the maps are designed to be real world stuff, like the floor of a kid's room. I just think it's boring. But I also find a lot of Game Boy games boring, so maybe it's just me. So I'm giving Tek Skateboarding a 5 out of 10.
Alright, one more game. Let's see what this is.
And it was that moment Dagan started crying. He looked up into the sky screaming, "Thank you, Ryan Reynolds," and bought a copy of Free Guy later that day. Look, I was originally going to end this video with Skate Attack because I feel like most people know about this game's existence by now, but I mean, so I had to. Rush Cyberfunk is the best and most unique skating game of the past 10 years. Now bear with me because I've never played Jet Set Radio, so I have no basis for this game. Maybe this game is literally just Jet Set Radio 3, but having not played Jet Set Radio, this game kicks ass! Everything about this game works. The visuals, the gameplay, the music. This game is a prime example on how to do a skateboarding game without copying Tony Hawk. Let me slow down though. This game was created by Team Reptile, a studio I've had prior experience with. Lethal League Blaze is one of my favorite fighting games with its extremely unique gameplay mechanics and quirky characters. Also, the crocodile is hot. I'm sorry, I bought the game for the crocodile. But looking at that game, its graphical inspirations are very apparent, and it was no wonder that they would end up going to create this. Rush Cyberfunk. And wow, I knew it was gonna be good, but this game just blew me out of the water. The story in this game is like genuinely really good. Like with most skating games, I don't expect a story, or a good one at least. Story modes in these games are an excuse to go to different maps. Getting a story like Tony Hawk Underground is very rare, even with some of my favorite skating games like Skate 3, but this game like genuinely has an engaging story. Every character has a personality. The mystery of who you are and who anyone is, to be honest, is super engaging. A lot of the writing and visuals are super funny. It's got a good grasp of tension too. Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing about it. And that's not even getting to the gameplay, dude. This game is unique in where directions do not change your tricks. You only have X, Y, and B, and manuals and grinds cannot be bailed out of. In fact, you can't bail at all, but this is an amazing system. What raises your score multiplier are two things: grinding corners and wall riding, but you can only wall ride billboards. So the game immediately goes to how many tricks can I do to how much area can I cover without ending my combo. It's an extremely rewarding system that's built up throughout the chapters, which gives you missions that show you good spots for combos, all culminating into a gang war that requires you to know exactly where the best combo spots are, and it's great. Going from one side of the map and back while staying in a combo is the greatest feeling ever. It's so satisfying to pop tricks while wall riding up a building and back down, and this is further enhanced by the music, bro. Team Reptile, I give you my life. And also, please make another Lethal League game. I need it. I think the only complaint I have with the music is that you're forced into basically listening to the radio until you find the songs, and this is fine, not a huge deal, but they're easily missable, so most of the time I'm sticking with the radio function. However, this is a weird skateboarding game. This game is weird, dude. Pool ball people, Medusa women, getting decapitated by vinyl records, people with robot heads as replacements for their normal heads, mocap dancing that reminded me a bit too much of Balan Wonderworld, and these dream sequences, bro. Some of my favorite parts of this game are the weird platforming sections. They get so creative with the visuals here, and it adds this feeling of something is off that's so cool, and they're just really fun. The way they craft these segments are so engaging. They keep me in suspense while doing some genuinely really good platforming. Also, this part reminded me of Heavy Rain, and I thought that was funny. However, I do have two minor complaints: the beat 'em up sections and the maps themselves. The beat 'em up sections are the lesser of the just okay. I think they're fun, I think they make sense, and I respect them as changes of pace for the game. Without them, I would get bored of the skating quicker. They're button mash fests with very, very light puzzles to solve. There are 3 buttons that just do a different attack, so your best bet is to spam X while looking for what you need to do and end the fight. I do think the puzzle solving is fun, and admittedly, beating up cops is satisfying, but they're just very bare bones. And the maps, well, they're okay. I think they're well designed, but most of them don't have anything to make them stand out. It's really hard to find where you are or where graffiti spots are, because everything is like, look over there, hey, that looks cool, look at this thing now, and it becomes a headache, especially since in order to get missions, you have to graffiti a bunch before unlocking anymore. It doesn't feel like padding per se, but for a $40 game, a lot of it is spent roaming around looking for where to go, even if it is still fun. Plus, things in this game never feel samey anyways, which is something I was deathly afraid of happening. Get bored of playing on a skateboard? Play on a bike or roller skates. Get bored of skating in general? Beat some cops up. Bored of just wandering around? Continue the political, existential, crisis-inducing story mode, which was not what I was expecting from the people who made Insane Candy Guy Hit Ball Go Wii. And did I mention the visuals? Obviously this game looks weird, but it is also gorgeous. The color palette is immaculate, with every character feeling distinct from one another. The entire game is eye candy and just hooks me in with its Y2K art style. And unlike Gogo Hypergrind, whose visuals, while great, were pretty apparent in its spitefulness of animation, this game obviously adores and appreciates the aesthetic it's replicating. It can come off as pandering sometimes, like, can we please have a 2000s game that takes place in the modern era and isn't, ooh, we have flip phones, we're so 2000s. But other than that, I feel a lot better gushing about the visuals of this as opposed to the game with a booby sign you get crushed by. Overall, I was blown away by the amount of charm, love, and just fun that was put into this game. Almost everything about it comes together to create this awesome package, which is so enjoyable. It's engaging, it's heartbreaking, it's funny, it's fucking awesome, and it's just plain old fun. Despite my 2 complaints, I'm giving Bomb Rush Cyberfunk an 8 out of 10. But here we are now. Today I learned that no matter how hard you try to make your game look good, it'll probably still suck. To not bank on a 2000s PC game to work for your video, and that I believe in Jesus Ryan Reynolds. Actually, I need to repay my thanks for Jesus Ryan Reynolds. I know what I'll do. And it was that night that Dagan watched Deadpool and Wolverine, despite already giving it a 1 out of 5 on Letterboxd. And despite his newfound love for Ryan Reynolds, he cried, and he cried, and he cried. Merry Christmas, and to all, a good night!